So let's get started. Let's talk about ChatGPT. Let's talk about, in particular, Custom GPTs. And if you want to learn more about getting better results from ChatGPT, one of the things we set up just a couple of months ago now is a brand new community. It's on the platform called Skool. And you can join this completely free of charge at the moment. We are not charging for it. You can get free membership for life. To get access to it, just hold up your phone to the QR code, or the link will appear very soon. And just let me tell you what happens if you do want to join. And I hope you do, because I can help you and help you get more out of ChatGPT. When you join the community, you will go to a page that looks something like this. And you just click the join button. It's my gift to you, it's free. And in here, we're on the platform called Skool. And one of the things you can do is you can network with the rest of the community of other like-minded accounting professionals, and you can ask questions, you can help other people in the community. There's also a classroom, and in the classroom there are a number of courses that I've created for people. This is free training on how to get more out of ChatGPT. And also in the calendar you will get to see all of the live streams that we're doing, like this one, so it's an easy way of you getting a reminder. You can see right now it says live, because we are live as I'm speaking right now. And then there's some other things you can do if you want. There's a bit of gamification. You can be on the leaderboard if you comment frequently. So that is our new community. We started it in March 2025. We are up to 584 members, and you are welcome to join. And I know that Marty here has just put in the comments, highly recommend the AI Academy. Okay, the AI Academy, which Marty's in, I will talk about that in a little while. Okay, let's get into the ChatGPT and Custom GPTs. So what on earth are Custom GPTs? Well, they are really powerful. What I'm going to do today is I'm going to share with you a bit about what they are, but then more important, how can we use them? What are the use cases? What can we do with Custom GPTs? And then to make it really practical, I'm going to do a live demonstration, and then I'm going to show you how you build your own Custom GPTs. This is so powerful. So, Custom GPTs, they were released back in November the 13th, 2023 by OpenAI. So as I'm doing this, it's about just over 18 months ago. When they came out, at the time, it was my favorite feature of ChatGPT. There's a few more things that have come out this year, which I think are even better still, but nevertheless, they are extraordinary. What are they? Well, think of them as a little mini version of ChatGPT, if you like, that are programmed. And when I say programmed, don't think you have to write coding. No, you don't. It's really simple. They basically have a set of instructions, a prompt, if you like, that will do something highly specific for you. And so what I like about these little GPTs is, firstly, they are really easy to build, easy to access. And I'll go into ChatGPT later and show you that easy. You can have them to hand on your left-hand menu bar. You can create the instructions for them. Think of them as a prompt, if you like, or think of them as custom instructions. You can have up to 8,000 characters, I believe, unless they've extended it, but I think it's 8,000 characters. So you can write quite long instructions and be very specific in what you want it to do. You can also upload files into the knowledge base, which that GPT will always have access to. So when you run the processor each time, you don't have to upload things. It's already there, the knowledge base. And the other thing I love about them is they are shareable. And that's particularly useful if you have a team of people and you want to share your GPTs with your team, your fellow partners. It may even be that you want to have some GPTs that you create and share with your clients. So very easy to share GPTs. Now, what they are best at is if you have a task that is repeatable, that you do frequently, and secondly, is very specific. And that's where I think GPTs are particularly strong. If you have a very specific task in mind, that you want to do something regularly and specific. So I'm going to show you some use cases that will give you some ideas of what you can do. Now the one downside at the moment is they are currently only available on the paid plans of ChatGPT. So if you're on a free account, I believe you can't create your own. And I think this is one of the many, many reasons why, if you are on the free account, you will want to upgrade to either the Plus account or the Teams account. If you're not sure, the Plus account is $20 a month plus tax, which I think is incredibly tiny when you consider all the amazing things that you can do with the Plus account. It's not just custom GPTs. There are so many more really powerful features that you do not get on the free plan. Yes, the free plan's great. You can do some amazing things. But if you are, the more you start to use AI, the more you start to automate things in your accounting firm, the more you'll realize that there are some powerful things you can do with the Plus account, which is $20 plus tax per month, or the Teams account. We have the Teams account. My entire team uses ChatGPT every single day. And the reason we have a Teams account is because the productivity of my team is extraordinary. What they can achieve every week is just mind-blowing compared to what was possible 2 years ago. So that's a little bit of an overview on what is a custom GPT. Let me talk about then what could you use it for? What are some of the use cases? So anything, as I said, anything that you might repeat that's repeatable. Think of it as a little system. Systems are so powerful. You create systems because they mean it means that anybody can run that system and they get done consistently every single time. So a custom GPT is like a mini system. One example might be a report generator. So it may be that you regularly produce reports for clients, let's say. And what you could do is you could create a GPT that creates that report, but you could build into the GPT the specific instructions that tell it, for example, the writing style, the structure, the layout, what you want in that report. And I'm going to show you a practical aspect of that later so you can see how easy it is to do. So some of the things that I've built and taught in the Value Pricing Academy and the AI Academy is, for example, how you might, if you do, let's say diagnostics, let's say that you do cleanup work. And one of the things you want to do as part of cleanup work is go into a business, go through and look at their QBO or their zero account, whatever it is, look for the errors, the mistakes, the things they do wrong, and then you might want to create some value by creating a report. And so one of the things that you could do is create a GPT for doing exactly that, where you click on a button, answer a few questions, and it then produces an amazing report for you. It might be that you want to create a standard report, let's say for every end of year meeting with a client to go through their end of year financial statements. And what you could do is you could put in, let's say, an Excel spreadsheet of their profit and loss account, their balance sheet, and it then produces in a predetermined format a report either for you to go through with the client as if you like your agenda, or even to give to the client, where you could look at things like trends, potential risk, and so on. Just bear in mind, of course, in our profession, not only have we got to be aware of privacy and security, but also client confidentiality, which is really important. I recently did a whole video training course on how accounting firms can make sure they are compliant when it comes to AI, privacy and security. And I think that, unfortunately, I think many accounting firms probably fall foul of the regulations, the professional regulations, GDPR and other data protection issues. So one of the things that I say in that course is when you are, let's say, you are uploading an Excel spreadsheet of financial data, that is okay as long as it's anonymous. So just in case you're thinking that, yes, you could create a GPT for producing an end-of-year report. Just my advice would be make sure you are giving it anonymized data. Okay, so that's use case number one. We could use it for creating standard types of reports, and you could have multiple GPTs for different types of reports. You could have a diagnostic report generator, an end-of-year financial statements report generator, and so on. Okay, what else could we do? Well, another thing that you might do regularly is if you want to grow your accounting firm and position yourself as the expert, you might have a blog and you might want to produce regular blog posts. And one of the things that we can do is we can, of course, use AI to help us with that process. And taking that to another level, we could then use a GPT where we feed it with the prompt, we feed it with things like our writing style, the way that we write blog posts, and then every time we want to write a blog post, we just run the GPT, we give it a bit of information, perhaps some news or something we want to build our blog posts around, and it will then do the hard work for us. Number three, third use case is it's really good for strategic thinking. So one of the things that I do is when I'm thinking about the strategy for my business, for the Value Pricing Academy, I have a GPT, and inside that GPT, in the knowledge base, is information about my business, including things like the business plan, my customer personas. It's got lots of information, which means that I can open up that GPT, and initially what it does when I run it the first time, it'll come up with some strategic insights, and then I can ask more questions about strategy, and it's pulling all the information in that I've put into the knowledge base about my business. Taking that to another level, if you wanted to do business advisory, then in theory what you could do, and I've done this for a local business owner, is you could create a GPT for a particular client and use it for business advisory strategic thinking. What else could you use it for? If we think about marketing, if we think about copywriting, I have a couple of GPTs. One's called Headline Generator and the other one's called Blind Bullet Maker. And they are fantastic GPTs. What Headline Generator does is if I write something that's, I don't know, an email and I'm struggling with a subject line, or I'm promoting a webinar and I'm struggling for a really attention-grabbing title for that, then what I can do is I can put in the details into my GPT, and what it will do is it will come up with a series of recommended headlines. And it does that because inside the knowledge base, I've given it everything I've learned over the years of teaching copywriting, how to create different types of headlines, different frameworks. They're already in the GPT, so I don't have to teach it that again. Likewise, blind bullets are really powerful in copywriting for creating desire. They are basically the way that you create bullet points, which you do with curiosity. They're like mini headlines. And again, I have a GPT where I put in the learning points and it produces for me really powerful blind bullets. So there's a bunch of ideas for what you could possibly do. And if you want even more ideas, shortly after OpenAI released GPTs in November 2023, shortly afterwards, in early 2024, they then launched the GPT store, where you can access publicly available GPTs. Now, I would suggest some caution there, because the problem is they made it so easy to create GPTs that when they opened the store, there are now millions of GPTs. And most of them are rubbish. Most of them are rubbish. You could go down rabbit holes doing research to find great GPTs that are publicly available. Yes, there's some gold out there, but most are rubbish. However, what you might want to do is if you're struggling with some ideas, you could always go to the public GPT store just to use that as to generate some ideas for creating GPTs. And then I recommend you create your own, because when you create your own GPTs, they do it exactly how you want it. And you can specify how you want it to lay out the report, for example. So let's drill down a bit more practical, and let's look at a couple. Let's first of all look at one that I use, and then let's build one together so you can see how easy it is to create your own custom GPTs. Now, I know some people are listening to the podcast, so I will try to explain this carefully, but if you are a visual person, you will probably want to hop across to my YouTube channel and catch up with this on my YouTube in my live stream section. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to demonstrate one of the GPTs that I use regularly. So let me go across to ChatGPT, and here we are. And you'll see the GPTs on the left-hand side. Of course, you have to have to create GPTs, remember, you have to have a Plus account or a Teams account. And the GPTs are the ones with little icons next to them. And then under that, you have your projects, and then you have your list of previous chats. You can see I use it every single day, multiple times. It's permanently on. In fact, I use it so much that I have it on multiple computers. I am multitasking, and I have 2 different ChatGPT accounts, because I sometimes am doing two separate tasks at the same time. So I have a whole bunch of GPTs here. You may recognize some I've mentioned, like Blind Bullet Creator, Live Stream Copywriter, and many, many more, Diagnostic Report. I'm going to go into Email Responder. In fact, I used this just a little while ago. If I just click on Email Responder, that is going to open up the email responder. I'm just going to hide now the left-hand sidebar. And so you'll see now we're into the normal, just like starting a brand new chat, but we see specifically this is email responder, and it says in the description here, simply give me an email and some context, and I will write an email response for you. And then what we can do to make it really easy for people to know what to do. I like to make these GPTs so they are in the main linear. There are, if you think of it as a step-by-step system, it's a linear system. And for step one, what we can do is we can create up to 4 buttons, if you like, 4 initial prompts. And I always put one in, which is called Let's Get Cracking. You'll see Let's Get Cracking, because what that does by hitting that button, basically it starts the workflow. And this one is really simple. There are only 2 steps in the process. It's really easy. So how do I use this? Earlier today, I got an email from somebody who wanted to appear on my live stream. He currently teaches dentists something, and whilst his content's great, I don't have guests on the live stream very often, and I want to make sure if I do, they are highly relevant to you. So basically, I wanted to say no to him, but in a nice way, and I wasn't sure how to craft that. So all I did was I ran email responder, and within seconds, it produced a lovely, friendly, nice email, a nice, polite way of saying no. I copied and pasted that back into my email and sent it back to him. So let me do an example just to show you exactly what I mean. If we hit Let's Get Cracking, it's a 2-step process, and what it's going to do is say that it's ready to start. Please give me the email you want me to respond to. Okay, that's nice and simple. So I've got a demo one here. It's not a real email, but just for demonstration purposes, I have an email. I'm just going to copy and paste this in here. Let me first read it to you. So this says, imagine and you may have this, imagine you've got a meeting coming up tomorrow at 3 o'clock in the afternoon with a potential client, and you're looking forward to it. And the day before the meeting with the potential client, the prospect, they email to cancel, which is always really annoying. Okay, so here we go. It says, hi Mark, I know we have a meeting booked for tomorrow at 3 p.m, but I need to cancel. I'm really busy at the moment and I don't think I have time for this meeting. Can we leave it for now? I'm still thinking of changing accountant, but since my year end is 6 months away, I am going to revisit this next year. Yours sincerely, Margaret. So perhaps you've had those before, and perhaps you're thinking, I was looking forward to that meeting because I've got some ideas to save her some tax. I know a bit about her business from the initial inquiry. I think I can save her about 15 grand in tax, and it's a shame that we can't get to meet. And so what I'd like to do is send an email back that shows some empathy, some understanding, but also gives a compelling reason why she might want to change her mind. So all I do is I send the email off, I copy and paste it in, I send it off to the GPT, and it's now going to run stage 2. And what it now asks for is some context. So before I draft your reply, please provide me with any relevant background information or key points you want me to include in the email response. Is there a particular call to action you want the recipient to do? So all I would then do is I would just type just very briefly some of the things I might want to say. And we don't have to worry about grammar. We can make spelling mistakes. Just have a brain dump into ChatGPT. You could even just click on the microphone and just speak to ChatGPT the sorts of things you might want to say. And so when I did the email a little while ago to the person to say no, I basically said, just let him know I'm not doing live streams with guests right now, and a couple of other points, and then it wrote this lovely email. So let's have a look at this one. What might we say to Margaret? So what I might say is, I might say this. The tax planning idea I wanted to discuss will save you more than £15,000, and I know cash flow is tight. If you change your mind, I'm available on Thursday and Friday of next week. Okay, so that might be the sort of the gist of it. So I hit this button now, and what the GPT is going to do, it's already got my writing style, the way that I write my emails, and so it's now opening this up in a canvas, which I love Canvas, because I can always change it then with AI. But let's see what it says. It says, subject, read tomorrow's meeting. Hello, Margaret. Thank you for letting me know, and I completely understand how busy things can get, so I always like to show some empathy beforehand. I just wanted to quickly mention that the main reason I wanted to have the meeting was to share a tax planning opportunity that would save you more than $15,000. I know cash flow is tight at the moment, which is exactly why I think this idea could really help. Of course, if now's not the right time, I completely respect that. But if you do change your mind, I have some availability on Thursday and Friday next week, and we'll be more than happy to talk it through with you. Let me know what works best for you. Best wishes, Mark Wickersham, FCA. And if I was in practice and I got that email, I probably wouldn't need to edit that in the slightest. I would just hit the copy button in the top right, paste it into email, job done. So I don't know how long you spend dealing with emails in a typical day or a typical week. In fact, one of the firms that I was with in Portugal last week, he told me his inbox was, Neil will remember, Mel will remember, it was over 2,000. I know some firms spend so much of their day dealing with email. So what if we could take what might be a 10-minute task and make it, this is probably less than a minute. I know I've been talking through as well, but it probably would have taken less than a minute to create an email like this when you have a GPT. So there's the first thing I want to show you, and just to remind you, hopefully you can see, GPTs are best when you have something that's highly specific. So in this case, it's a simple system. I just want you to read an email. I'm going to give you some information about how to respond and then write it in the way I write my email. So highly specific task. And secondly, repeatable. Yes, do we want to respond to emails regularly? You probably do it 10, 15, 20 times a week. Just imagine how much time that you could save answering emails with something like this. So, how do you build a GPT? Easy, really simple. They've made it so simple. It's one of the reasons why when it came out in November 23, I really got excited by GPTs, and I have dozens of GPTs. If I just close this one back down, what you see on my sidebar is just the ones I've chosen to pin to the sidebar. And it's one of the things I like about GPTs is your favorite ones you use regularly, like an email responder, you can pin it so it's always to hand straight away. But if I go and look at, you can see at the bottom it says explore GPTs. If I explore GPTs, what I can do is I can explore firstly the public GPT store with the millions of GPTs out there, but also I can explore all the GPTs that I've created. And I've probably created 30 or 40 over the last year and a half. Partly because I teach other accounting firms how to do it themselves, so some of them are just demo ones, but the ones that I use most frequently, I can put on the sidebar. So let's build a new one. And so, in fact, let me first go to Explore GPTs. And what you will probably find is GPT is sometimes a bit slow. It actually was a bit quicker today. Okay, so it's now opened up GPTs, and at this stage, I can now see, there's see more, I can see all the ones at Value Pricing Academy, because we have a Teams account, so we can share them amongst our team very, very easily. And then we can also see all the ones on the public store, which is a bit overwhelming. But if I want to create a brand new one, all I do is hit plus, create in the top right. I hit the create button, and that's going to go to a screen that is split into two halves. And actually the default is normally here. So the left-hand side is where you create your GPT, and the right-hand side is called preview, because that's really a testing site. So you can start to build a GPT, and then you can test it without leaving this screen, which is one of the things I love about it. You can test it, and if on the right-hand side, and if it's not giving you what you want, you can go back to the left-hand side and tweak the instructions. Now, on the left-hand side, when you're building a GPT, there are two ways to do it. You will notice there are two buttons at the top. One says Create, which is normally the default. One says Configure. Create is for beginners. I do not recommend you use Create unless it's just the first time and you're playing around. Basically, Create means that you have a natural language conversation with ChatGPT. And you can see it starts off. It says, "Hi, I'll help you build a new GPT." You can say something like, "Make a creative who helps generate visuals for new products," or "Make a software engineer who helps format my code. What would you like to make?" So I could say, I want a GPT to help me answer emails. And what it will do is it will write some instructions for that. It'll write the instructions. And then it'll perhaps ask some clarifying questions. And we can have a conversation and build on that. The reason why I don't recommend it is because, firstly, I tend to find that what it builds behind the scenes is the instructions are a little bit basic. And also, as you continue the conversation, it keeps changing the instructions. And so you might find you get a situation where the first time it seems to work quite well, and as you have the conversation, it changes it and it gets worse, and you've lost the original set of instructions. So for that reason, I prefer to go to Configure and write the instructions in the instructions box. In fact, what I do is I will write the instructions perhaps in a Word document, a notes document, and then copy and paste across. And the reason I recommend that is because if you get into the habit of keeping your instructions in a separate file, if something went wrong, if your GPT was to crash, I don't think it's ever happened on me, but let's say it disappeared for whatever reason, if you've got all of your instructions somewhere else, you can always then just start a new GPT and copy and paste. So let's go through the process of configuring. The first thing you'll see is a plus with a circle. That's where you can upload a little image, or you can use DALL-E to create it. I don't know why it says DALL-E, given that they've now changed that 2 months ago with their new image generation, but hey, it doesn't really matter. So that's how you create the image. I just use DALL-E. It's simple, but I would do that as the last step. I don't know why it's at the top, because it will create an image based on your GPT. So let's do the GPT first and then do the image last. That's the way I choose to do it. You can give it a name. So what am I going to call this one? Let's build a GPT. Let's imagine this. This is, I think, a really cool use case for you that you might want to use. Let's imagine that you help your clients sometimes with installing, using financial tech. It may be you get them using QuickBooks or Xero, or it may be there's other things that you use in your tech stack, or you recommend they put in their tech stacks. Perhaps, for example, expense claim software, employee management software, work in progress, inventory, stock management, so many different things that your clients could have in their tech stack. And it may be that what you do is recommend tools, and then from time to time the client will either make a mistake or they won't know how to use it. And one of the things that you could do to add value is to create a little mini software guide specifically for them on how to use a specific feature relevant to them for a specific tool. And so you could create a GPT that will just very quickly and simply allow you to create a report for your client, a software guide for software they're using in their tech stack. So I'm going to call this, because of that, I'm going to call my GPT FinTech Instructor. Okay. Then we might want to give it a description. This is the description that will appear underneath the name when one of your team decides to use it. So I would recommend you give it, this is a short description of what it does. So I've just put in here a training manual assistant that helps you structure, outline and write clear step-by-step software guides tailored for non-technical business owners. I know you can't see all that. The box is a bit small. It's not that critical, that box. The really important one is the instructions. This is where you write your custom instructions for this GPT. And we'll come back to that in a second. I'm going to just show you the other things that you can do. You can then have up to 4 conversation starters. So these are buttons that somebody will, when they start the GPT, they're buttons that they could click on that, if you like, have a prompt behind them. So the prompt to help people when they're not sure what to do. So you could have a conversation starter, a button that says simply, tell me what this process will do. And somebody then could just click on that and it'll say, this is what it does. Personally, because I tend to do linear things, I have one like, let's get started, because I'll tell it what to do straight away on step 1. We don't have to put a prompt in there. Let's get started is sufficient. So I like to have that. Then we can have a knowledge base, so we can upload files. We can upload up to 20 different files. So in this particular case, and I will do it now before I forget, so we can upload files. These could be things like example outputs or templates. There's so many things it could be. So I'm going to find a different one. Just bear with me a second. I'm going to go to my desktop. I'm going to go for ChatGPT demos, and I've got an example. It's just an example report of teaching of what I'm expecting from this GPT. So I'm just going to upload that. But you could upload all sorts of files. If you were doing, for example, strategic planning for your firm GPT, you could upload your business plan. You could upload your ideal customer profile, your customer personas, about your services you offer. You could upload all sorts of different files, and they are in the knowledge base that every time you run the GPT, it will always have access to that knowledge. And then we can specify which of its capabilities we want it to use. Do you want the user, when they run this GPT, to be able to do a web search? Do you want them to be able to open it up in a canvas? In this case, absolutely yes. Do you want them to create images? And do you want to use code interpreter and data analysis? Now, by default, you will always find the first three are ticked on, because why wouldn't you want those? Unless you decide this is for your team and you don't want them playing around with images, you could just turn this off, and that means inside the GPT they could never then create an image. Personally, I leave them on. The fourth one is off, and the reason for that is because if you ever share your GPT, for example, put it on the GPT store or share it with clients, then when Code Interpreter is turned on, it's not that difficult to hack a GPT and access the instructions. And with a little bit of ingenuity, it's possible to also hack and get the knowledge base as well. And that's why OpenAI made it off by default. So I would always recommend that you only turn this one on if A, you want it to use Code Interpreter. That might be to analyze Excel spreadsheets, and you are not going to share it on the public GPT store or with clients. And I would recommend that there's no reason I can think of why an accounting firm would want to put it on the public GPT store. And then finally, we have a section called Actions, which I'm not going to go through. This is really advanced stuff. It's about hooking up APIs to link to things like Zapier. That's advanced, and to be honest, you do not need to know that for pretty much most of the practical use cases you will want to use. So really, that's it. That's building a GPT. You give it a name, perhaps a description. The instructions is the most important thing, which we'll do next. You can choose what buttons appear on the GPT to help people get started. I like just a simple let's get started. You can upload knowledge, and you can choose the capabilities. Okay, so let's build out some instructions. And rather than me showing you now step by step, I'm just going to copy and paste and then just briefly show you what I've put into that box. So, not wrong button there. Let's go back to me. So when you are creating GPTs, I do recommend that you have some knowledge and capability of prompt engineering. Prompt engineering is the skill of how do we communicate with AI? How do we write and construct our prompts? And it's something I've been teaching for the last 2 years. It's a really important skill, because the better you are at writing prompts, the better the results you'll get, the better the outputs you'll get. So I spent a bit of time earlier today crafting a prompt for this particular GPT. So if I just go back here, and by the way, it's a small box again, but we can expand this box, which is useful. So I've just done that, and I'm just going to do Control V. So here we go. Here's the prompt I did earlier. And let's just go through it, and I'll show you what it does. So it's got a goal or mission. The GPT is going to act as a technical writer specializing in SaaS user education with expertise in creating step-by-step software guides for non-technical audiences. Your job, Mr. GPT, is to help write a training manual for business owners learning to use financial software. Your mission is to simplify technical processes into clear, actionable instructions that build user confidence and promote independent use of the software. So I've got there the mission and the role I want it to play. If you've watched my other training on prompt engineering, you'll know that it's very important to give it a specific role to play, because you get better responses. It then goes on to say, you will accomplish the mission by following the steps in the instructions, and you will accomplish the mission by always following the rules. So I've then broken down a couple of sections here. I'll come back to rules later, they're at the bottom. But I've also put the instructions. And one of the things that is great about GPTs is that I think they work really well when you've got a series of steps. Not too many steps, ideally less than 7. My email responder, I think, was 3 steps. Step 1 is to ask for the email. Step 2 is to ask for some context. And step 3 is to open a canvas and write the email. It's a 3-step process. So GPTs are very good at following a series of steps. Just don't have too many, it gets too complicated and you sometimes get unexpected and unpredictable results. But as a general rule of thumb, 3, 5, 7 steps can work really well. So what are the steps that I'm going to do in this particular one? So it says, work with me to perform the following steps in order. Do not move on to the next step until I've confirmed I'm ready. End each step by saying, are you ready to move on to the next step, or do you want to explore this further? You don't have to do that. But one of the things I teach with GPTs is have feedback loops. In other words, every single step of the process, what you might want to do is ask the user, are you happy with this? Shall we move on? Because they might not like the response to the first step, and then you might have a conversation with it to tweak it before you move to step 2. That's why a feedback loop is really, really useful in these steps. So what does it then do? Step 1 is to ask for the name of the software. So what's the manual we're writing? Is it QBO? Is it Xero? Or is it something else? What's the purpose of this manual we're writing? Who's the target audience? The tone, the personality? Then it's going to ask for any specific tasks or topics to cover in the training manual. And then what it will do is it will create a proposed structure for the training manual, grouping tasks into logical sections such as setup, daily use and reporting. And in step 4, it's going to present to us that proposed outline and ask for feedback or edits before proceeding. So essentially that's the third part of the feedback loop. And then if we're happy, it's going to open a new canvas, name it after the final report, and then it's going to begin writing clear step-by-step instructions for each task, ensuring the language is simple, the tone is appropriate, and the format is consistent. And it then says, look at this, it says, refer to the document called example in the knowledge base and use it as a guide to the required output. So this is, I uploaded that, you might have remembered. So one of the things that's useful to put into the knowledge base is either examples of what you're looking for, example reports, or template reports, and then say in the instructions, tell it to specifically refer to the knowledge base. And then that's how you start to create predictable, consistent responses. If I went back to my email one, I have my writing style guide, and I also have examples of how I write my emails, and that's in the knowledge base. So then the response format. This is, I wanted to lay out the responses as follows. I want you to, again, I'm just reiterating, refer to the document called example in the knowledge base and use it as a guide. And also I want you to lay it out with this template. So templates are really powerful. We can specify in our instructions, always have it with a section title, an objective, why it matters, and then the step-by-step instructions. And then finally, I said at the start, you must also follow the rules. Now, why rules are useful is, one of the things you'll find is when you start writing longer prompts, sometimes it forgets things, it doesn't behave. And so here's a great tip for you. If you say early on, you will accomplish your task or your mission by following the rules, it might be initially you just have 1 or 2 rules. But then what happens is, having now written it, which I've done, we can now test it over on the right-hand side. We could say, let's get started, and we can go through the process. We can see the results we get from it. And if we don't like the output, we can then go back into the instructions and add a rule and say, I always want you to do this, or whatever it wasn't doing before. So this is the iterative process of creating, testing it, and then just configuring it by tweaking a few things until we are happy. Once we're happy, we hit create, and we've got a number of options for who we share. We can share it with our team, for example. I won't share it at this stage. We hit update, and oh, I know what I didn't do. I didn't do the image. I didn't do the image for it, but never mind. The image is really simple because all you do is you click on the plus button and it says use DALL-E 3. You wait about 10 seconds and it will create a little image for you for your software. So I'm going to have a blank one. So let me just go and view the GPT and let's just see what it does. I'll hide my left hand It's actually by default it appears in the left-hand menu, the new one, and you can choose whether to keep it there or whether you don't want to. I'm going to delete it later. So here we go. This is what we set up, the FinTech instructor. This was the description, and I've got a couple of conversation starters. So I'm going to hit let's get started. Let's see what it does. And so it's now, the little pause at the start was it's reading its knowledge base, and now it's asking me, step one, it wants some information. It wants to know what software we want a manual for, what's the purpose, who's the audience, tone and personality, and other context. So I'm going to keep it fairly simple. You don't have to answer all the questions. I'm just going to say, let's go with this Expensify. Let's imagine you have some tradespeople, a company that's got, perhaps they're a construction company and they want to use Expensify. You've recommended that to them and they want a manual so their non-tech tradespeople, the audience, will know how to interact with the software. So I've got Expensify. Okay, I mean, we could do any piece of software. ChatGPT knows about all these software tools. So let's run that, and it might ask me for some more questions. So it's confirming, I think, a few things. Just to complete step one, could you confirm the tone and personality? Because I didn't answer that question, okay? So I didn't answer it, so it's given me some prompts, and I'm going to go with, I want to have supporting and encouraging. So let's just put that in there, and I'll send this off. Then we can move on to step two. So perfect. What it's now going to do is it's going to ask me, I think, if I remember right, what step two was, is anything specific that I want to teach. But I think at the moment it's just clarifying step one. Yes, I'm ready. Let's move on to step two. And step two is going to be, I'm going to keep this one brief. So it's given me some things here. I could ask it to include how to log into Expensify, how to upload a receipt, how to categorize an expense. I could just say all of those. I could say, or I could come up with something different. So I'm going to just put how employees can record their expense claims. But actually all those sound really good. I hit this button here, and what it's now going to do is going to create an outline of what this training manual might look like for my approval. And so I was just clarifying first. Would I like to include all those? I'm just going to put yes. I'll have all that in the manual. And then it's going to say, okay, so that's what we're going to include in the training manual. It says, with that scope defined, I'll now move on to step three. Am I ready? Yes, I'll do that. It's now going to outline in step three the structure of that training manual. Now, you might decide you don't want a step three. You could. It's up to you how you build a GPT. You could just skip this and just go straight to writing the manual. That might be sufficient. But this gives you an opportunity if you want to say, no, I actually don't want a getting started, or I don't want a submitting expenses section. But let's assume that I'm happy with that. I believe what it should do now is it's asking for clarity again. It's because I said every single step ask me if I'm happy, so that's what it's going to do. What I would probably do is only ask after certain steps. So I'm just going to put yes at the end of this, and then I think you will see the output. So there you go. It's now opening up a canvas. It's calling the canvas Expensify expense claims guide, and it's now writing a little software manual that I could put onto my letterhead or put my logo on it, and then I could present this to the client or to the client's tradespeople or whatever. And so it's written a really good and very fast user manual for the Expensify software, specifically to the needs of the client and what they specifically want to learn about the system. So yes, we could say to the client, look, here's the Expensify manual, read it yourself. But no, what we can do here is we can just deal with very specific things, the things the client needs. And they're going to think you're great because they're going to think that you've spent a few hours drafting this manual for them. No, it didn't. It took you probably, if I wasn't talking, probably 5 minutes that you could create something like this that you could then, if you want to, because it's in a canvas, you could have a conversation and tweak it, change it, use the AI, or it might be it's perfect straight away. And if you've got great instructions in your GPT, and if you've got examples and templates, what you will find, and what I find, is that 99% of the time, whatever it produces, you don't need to change it. It's perfect because you've trained it in exactly the format that you want. So just imagine the time that you're going to save creating little user guides, manuals for all of that tech stack that your clients tend to use. And we're still going. I think at this point you get the point. So that's Custom GPTs. Really, really powerful, particularly for anything that's hyper specific in what you want and something you do repeatedly. It's worth spending a bit of time creating the GPT. And as you saw, creating GPTs doesn't take long. The only time-consuming bit of the whole process of building a GPT is the instructions. And the great news is that what I do when I build GPTs is I have a series of prompts inside ChatGPT that I just run that builds my GPT for me. That's what I did with this one. It took me just a few minutes to build that GPT. I went through some prompts, and then the end result I put into the GPT as you saw. So building GPTs, once you have some skills with prompt engineering, is really easy. Okay, we are ready, I think, for some Q&A. Before, I didn't see too many questions come in, I don't think. In fact, I think only one so far from Clive. No, two. Two questions, I think. So you've got time to get your questions in. Before that, just one final thing, because if you want to go deeper on this, if you're enjoying this and want to start building GPTs, if you can see the potential for this, then I did last week a course for accounting firms on how to build GPTs. It's about 2.5 to 3 hours of training, where in the videos, what I do is we build one from the ground up together, how to do a diagnostic report, and I give you all the instructions, everything, so you can just copy and paste and have your own diagnostic report. I then walk through the idea of template instructions and how to build from scratch, and I provide all my prompts and templates to enable you to build any GPT in just a matter of minutes. That is exactly what I used to build the one I just shared with you. It took me about 10 minutes to create that GPT. So if you're interested and want to go deeper with GPTs, if you can see the potential in the hours this will save, if you want this course, then the best way to get it is to become a member of the AI Academy. And the AI Academy is a really tiny investment of just $47 at the moment. We launched it 2 months ago. We have a special offer for founder members where you can lock in your price for life. I'm going to ask Sarah to put the link into the chat, or if you want, I will put a QR code up in a short while. So if you want to benefit from being one of the founders and get in at the lowest possible price, it's only $47 US. It will go up at some point very soon, but not for founders. You will lock in your price. And when you come to the AI Academy, not only will you be able to like our free community I mentioned earlier, you will also you'll be part of the community. You can ask questions of other people, of me. In the classroom itself, I have many, many courses. I have my full guide to prompt engineering, for example, which will teach you how to craft amazing prompts. I've got my course, for example, on AI image generation, a new feature there, how you can use that. That's a full course of about 2.5 hours. I have a course on privacy and security, and of course the custom GPTs, and much more stuff. And I've got much more stuff I'm going to be teaching accounting firms through the AI Academy with both ChatGPT and automations in the months and years to come. So if you want to access that, if you want to be part of that community, it's really simple. Either use the QR code you can see right now, or Sarah's put the link, I believe, here. Okay, let's answer some questions. There's not many, which is why I overran a little bit. We have 8 minutes. Clive from South Africa. When you create a custom GPT, what model is it created in? 4.0, 4.5, etc. If it's created in a specific model, can you change the model when you actually run it? Okay, that's a great question, and I'm not 100% sure. I'm 99% sure it runs in GPT 4.0. You cannot change the model. I believe it's just the default model, so you can't elect inside a GPT. And I'm just having a quick check myself, but no. I believe it uses 4.0. You don't have the option to use, let's say, deep research or advanced reasoning and so on. So I don't know. I think the model is the default, which would be GPT-4. If somebody knows let me know, because I don't know everything. I do get some things wrong, but I don't think with a GPT you've got any choice on the model. Next question, I think Mel said, what did Mel say? I've just set up my first GPT. Congratulations. Finally understand what it is. Haha. Great. Yeah, Mel was with me last week in Portugal with the Portugal retreat. And one of the things I just recommend is have a go at building one yourself. That when you do that, just have a play with it. You'll suddenly the light bulb will go on and you'll realize, like I did, wow, this opens up so many possibilities. Has the manual for Expensify been uploaded to the GPT? A great question. So as you probably know, the OpenAI and all the companies have trained on huge amounts of data, and I would have thought that companies like Expensify will want their manuals to be in the public domain. So I can't answer the question, was it specifically trained on Expensify's manuals, but I would have thought that if that's in the public domain, which Expensify want people to see all that stuff because they want people using the software, then I guess the answer is yes. Now one of the things, if for example, let me just go off a tangent slightly away from GPTs, but on that topic is, if let's say you want to use ChatGPT to do a book review. Someone's joined the academy, I heard. If you want to do a book review, then I've got a standard prompt I use for creating book reviews, but the book review that's something that it'll write will be based upon the book only if the book is in the public domain. If it's not, when it writes book reviews, it's based on other people's reviews that are in the public domain. So that's really a long way of answering the question that I don't know if they've specifically got access to the Expensify's uploaded training manual, but they probably have. Okay, I think we have, I think we've got, is this a question? Let me see, just bear me a second. We've got 5 minutes left, so I have got time for 1 or 2 more questions. Next question from, I hope I pronounce it right, is it Charlize? Can you help clarify what information needs to be uploaded to the GPT? If, for example, we want to be able to get answers from HMRC guidance notes, I lost the question, guidance, notices and codes of practice, would docs have to be uploaded? Another great question. So, I'm from the UK. I'm a chartered accountant from the UK, and I know that if you go to the government's website, the HMRC website, there is a huge amount of guidance notes on the website, and so ChatGPT should have access to all of those guidance notes. I have used it from time to time to ask questions about tax planning from my own personal circumstances. I used to be a tax planner, and so when I get the results from ChatGPT, I know that, yeah, that looks about right. And you can always go back and search the original sources. So yes, you should be able to, with ChatGPT, be able to access tax information if it's in the public domain, which it certainly is the case in the UK with HMRC. And therefore you would not need to put that into the knowledge base. But if, let's say if you're not sure, but one of the things you could do, for example, is again with HMRC, a lot of the tax guidance, when you go to the website, you can download as a PDF. And so what you might want to do to be doubly sure, if you've got a PDF of the tax legislation, then you could upload that into the GPT. So the shorter answer is, if you know for certain it's in the public domain, it should have access to it. Thank you, frankly, I've just seen you've joined the academy. If you've got access to it, it should be okay. But if you want to be doubly sure, if you want to, you can upload it into the knowledge base. I've found from everything I've learned about GPTs over the last 18 months is that you can have 20 files in a GPT, but what tends to work best is having files that have a limited amount of information. A file that might be 2 or 3 pages with your example reports. If you give it too much stuff, it doesn't always necessarily read everything every time it runs the GPT. Clive, what advantages are there to having custom GPTs rather than just using prompts from a prompt library? Clive, that's a great question, because actually that's 2 things you could look at, but there's actually 3. So do you want a custom GPT? Or just a standard prompt in a prompt library, like the one that I guess you use, my prompt library? And number 3, of course, is they brought out last November 2024, projects. And they all have a place. What I like about prompts in a prompt library is it's very easy to copy and paste a prompt across, add in a couple of variables, as you probably know, Clive. What I like about prompts is because when you copy and paste them, you can quickly read through them as well. And if you're thinking, actually, I want to do a bit different today, you could tweak it and change it on the fly. Whereas a GPT is kind of locked away. If you haven't used the GPT for 6 months, then it's fine if you're using it the same every single time, but you might think, oh, what does this GPT do? And then it's a little bit more of a step to go behind the scenes and look into the GPT to remind yourself what it does and change. So I kind of like the simplicity of prompts in a prompt library that you cut and paste. For me, GPTs are best if, and I'm going to say this again, I know, but GPTs are best if they are super specific as to what you want them to do, a very clear task, and they're going to be used really regularly because, like the email responder, it's just there. You can just run it whenever you need it. And then, of course, there's projects as well. I tend to use projects more because with projects you can upload project files and also project knowledge. And I like projects because we can then put all of our chats inside that umbrella. And so I tend to find I use projects more than GPTs. The GPTs I use the most are the ones that are the most specific, like the email responder. I use that all the time. If I was an accountant in practice and doing certain types of reports, I would definitely have GPTs for churning out those reports if I want them to be very consistent every single time. Clive, that was a really good question, and thank you for asking it. There's no real hard and fast rule as to whether you have a prompt library, a GPT, or a project. They are all great, and there's just some subtle differences between them. I think really it's a case of just playing around with them and seeing which one you prefer. I think there are certain use cases that cert one over another. Okay, I make it on the hour. We always finish these sessions after 60 minutes. And so thank you so much for giving up an hour of your time. I hope you've enjoyed it. Please click the thumbs up button if you've learned something useful today. That'll just give me some feedback as to whether it's been useful or not. Please do that. And I'm going to play out with some music for 3 minutes before I close this down, which means I will read every one of your comments. If you've got any comments to give, please put them and I will have a read of them. I will see you online again sometime very soon, I hope. Bye for now.